Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Thursday, so that means Shades of Bravo. We're going to talk about Bravo. It's not even going to be shades, it's going to be all shades of Bravo because I'm here with my friend Mandy Slutsker. We're going to talk about Beverly Hills and Vanderpump, and I'd be interested to know also if you're watching Miami and the news about Larsa and MJ Jr. We've got a lot to talk about. How you doing, Mandy?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I meant to tell you, I got our tickets for John Hill's DC show.
Yay!
So we are going to go. You guys, if John Hill, he's on Radio Andy, he's Andy's ex boyfriend, but in his own right, he has a show on Radio Andy, and he's very, very talented. Like he's been on Broadway. He is so talented, and his show is so great. So if he comes to your town, definitely get a ticket and go. Mandy's going to go with me, and I'm going to go into DC on a weeknight, girl.
Live my life for a minute.
I mean, only for John Hill and Gary Janetti, where I also saw you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Gary Janetti was so fabulous. Did you see that Patti LuPone went to his New York? Or was
Yes.
it Boston? I can't remember which one it was. I think it was New York.
Yeah. Yeah. She's not going to Boston to see John Hill. I mean, to see Gary Janetti, but she would. She would go. She would leave her apartment in New York. Yes, because Gary Janetti, in one of his books, has this big story about as a little kid, all he wanted to do was see Patti LuPone. And then I won't tell you what happened. You got to read the book. But yes, it's so interesting, right? That was it at our show? I think it was at our show in DC where he spilled the tea that he is not a fan of Sutton.
Yes, he did say that. That was really interesting.
Something had happened where he found her to be very rude.
She's someone who I think can rub people the wrong way. I think she's very socially awkward in a lot of different situations.
I think so too. And I know that there's a waitress from Tower Bar that is a friend of Jeff Lewis is on that show quite a bit. And even though Jeff is very close with Sutton, Doug is very close with Sutton. Those are people, on the show that she has just flat out said on the show. It's like, no, the only person ever that has been rude to me is Sutton Strack. And no, I am going to say it on your show, even though you're friends with her. He's like, oh my God, she's never going to come back on. But yeah, I guess that she like Heather Dubrow can rub people the wrong way.
Yeah. And they also have their like legions of fans. I mean,
Mhm.
I think Sutton Strack is actually the MVP of this season of Beverly Hills.
Me
I
too.
really do. I
Me
think
too.
she's been a villain. She's been so vulnerable in talking about her dad's death and, her dissolving of her marriage and just like so many different aspects of her life that I think we really just didn't know a lot about. And
Yeah.
so she's just kind of going back and forth between like being well liked and being like us being furious with her, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that makes really interesting television. So I'm here for it.
I think she's very much herself. I think she's very much herself. And I feel like, does she have a little Ramona in her? Maybe. Maybe. You know,
Name them.
name them. So let's talk about last week's Beverly Hills. You guys know I record this on Wednesdays and it comes out on Thursday. So yes, I'm aware when you're hearing this, there will have been a new Beverly Hills episode, but to get the content to you on time, I have to record on Wednesday night. And you guys know Mandy has like a real important job. So she's like, she can't be recording in the morning. She's got to go and save people in DC. Yeah, that's what she's doing. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Okay. So it's interesting to me watching it back because I watched it again today that Erica Jane really wants an apology from everybody, but she's still in this legal trouble, Mandy. And like lots of things have been proven that aren't her fault, but there's just as many court cases out there against her still. So if I was her, I would just zip it, enjoy this comeback season she's having, and not be like, are you going to apologize? And they're like, well, we still don't know what you did, girl. You know?
Yeah, I think she really played this poorly because she was getting the
Again,
audience back on her
again.
side.
Yes.
Everyone was really enjoying her. She was a lighter version of her. She's been so enjoyable to watch on the show and watching her connect with the women, that she wasn't really able to when she had Lisa Rinna on the show with her. They kind of kept to themselves. They didn't
Uh-huh.
engage with the group. And now you see her with no real ally other than Kyle. and she has to go and make new friends. And it has been so fun to watch. So when she brings this up, she's just missing the point, which is they never said, we think that you did illegal things. They
Yeah.
just felt like she didn't show enough empathy, right? And she viewed herself as the ultimate victim rather than people whose money was stolen from them. She views it as like her money being stolen from her. And
Right.
that's what they tried to point out. And she's still not quite getting it. It's a little Tom Sandoval-esque, just like not being able to quite grasp the gravity of the
Yes.
situation.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's a great comparison. So, I just think she should zip it, and I think the last couple of seasons, she should have zipped it. She should have said, "Legally, I cannot talk about any of these things. So, but let's go have a good time on this trip. Legally, I cannot talk about these things." The end. And say nothing. Say nothing. Don't post shit on social whatever.
Did she
So,
post stuff recently?
no, not recently, but remember when she was
Okay.
posting herself on the cross and
Oh, that was terrible.
victims, orphans, widows. I was like, "Oh, girl, shut it." So, I thought it was interesting that episode 2 when they're still in Spain that Erica Jane talking so much about her being such a great dancer when, like, clearly they're there to spread the ashes of one of, like, the greatest choreographers, like Balanchine level, and Sutton has been in that ballerina world for so long, and Sutton's just kinda like, I guess because everybody thinks she's a good dancer." But, Sutton's like
That is Sutton's version of shade.
yeah, I guess if you could call that dancing, I don't know. Um, and I also thought it was very interesting, and I took a lot of notes on this bus scene with all the women talking about marriage, okay? Because Anne Marie asked Sutton, if you fell in love again, like head over heels, would you get married? And she's like, no. I mean, do I look stupid? Do I have stupid on my forehead? No. She'd lose all that money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's literally like Jeff Bezos. No, you know.
Right. Do you
Who
lose alimony if you marry someone new?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She wouldn't lose child support, but her kids are aging out of that, but she would lose alimony.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
no, so she's
It
undone.
also makes sense on Miami. They did mention that Lenny had the stipulation that if he was going to pay for a new house for Lisa, that she
Uh-huh.
couldn't have another man live in it with her. But that's actually very common, I think, at least in legal cases in like DC and Virginia. I have a friend who recently got divorced and her husband's paying part of her mortgage. But if she gets a new boyfriend or gets married and that other person moves in, like, why should he pay for part of her mortgage when she's now part of a couple and could have like a joint income, you
And then
know?
that money would be split also. So the half he's
Yeah.
paying would then be yeah, I get it.
Right. So I don't think, okay. Yeah. Anyways, interesting.
Interesting. So, Garcelle's like, "Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I don't need the paper, and I've worked so hard to get to where I am, and I would not wanna leave what I've worked for to a man, no matter how great it was. I would wanna leave it all to my kids." And then you hear Kyle go, "Prenup." Now, she just kinda pipes in, and then Sutton says, to Erica no, I'm so sorry. Erica says to no one, t basically for what Garcelle said. She goes, "You could just fuck him up and leave him with all your problems like mine did." And then Garcelle says, "Do we even know what we're signing sometimes? Like, sometimes we're just signing stuff." I was like, "Hello, Teresa Giudice?"
Right.
And, Kyle says to Anne-Marie, "I mean, do you read everything your husband gives you? Like, you read everything? Like, you get a lawyer to read it?" And she goes, "No, but our business manager does." Probably not a great idea if they have a joint business manager. And, Kyle goes, "I mean, sometimes I just sign things." And Sutton's like, "Marriage 101. Don't sign anything without reading it. I don't care if you are married to the Pope. Do not sign the Pope's document." Well, that would be problematic if you marry the Pope for
Right. I
other
was like that
reasons.
of all of the examples, like
Right.
I was like, that's the one that's like the
Yes.
most far-fetched. No, I
Um,
don't understand why people I understand. Okay, this is what I think it is. I think when you have a certain amount of wealth,
right.
you have you're constantly signing paperwork because whoever's managing that wealth is like moving things, right? It's
Yep.
moving it between accounts. It's like there's so many different accounts. There's investment accounts and all that stuff. And so at some point you're exhausted and you just, trust your partner and they're
Right.
telling you exactly what this means.
Yeah.
I didn't read every single document when I signed my mortgage agreement. It was like 1,000 pages.
And they just
So
hand it to you and they tell
they
you
hand
what
it
it is.
they tell you what it is, and, I glanced over, I'm like, "That does look like what you're explaining. Okay, I'm gonna initial, I'm gonna sign." But to, go through every single thing line by line is quite difficult. And
Yeah.
I think if you're in a partnership and you really trust your partner,
Yeah.
what I don't think is helpful is to have only one person manage finances. Like, they have some sort of joint management. Like you
Yeah.
manage this stuff, I manage, like you manage, this, like our investments in the stock market, and I'll manage like our wills,
Yeah.
or a trust or something like that. So it's not like only one person.
Yeah.
And you have to understand at least what's happening. And I think Kyle has just been, she's got, engaged or married, I think at 19. She had a kid. Like she's just been I guess an adult for quite some time, but yet she still has always had someone to kind of take care of her.
Right. Yeah. It's very interesting with the big Kathy of it all, right? Because Kyle's like, Mo handles everything. I just sign stuff, hope for the best. My mom said to never trust a man. And, knowing what we know about Big Kathy, of course, Big Kathy would not agree with her just signing everything Mo gave her. But I also really, really have to wonder what Big Kathy thought about her marrying Mo when he really had no money.
I
Like he
bet
had no
she
money.
thought he was like,
Horrible.
not good enough for her,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I think so. I think it was probably a huge disappointment. And so when, Kyle's like, I just sign things. I don't know. And she's kind of laughing about it. Like she knows it's dumb, but she's laughing about it. And Erica Jane's like, this is how I got in trouble, girl. You trust your husband, so you can't trust your husband. But I don't think Erica Jane says, you can sign everything you want. And you can read it all you want. If your husband is a high powered lawyer, they're going to put something in there that's going to fuck you,
Yep.
which is what happened to her, or there's no money now. So it doesn't matter. Now, speaking to Anne-Marie, I'd like to get your thoughts because people seem to really hate her. I understand her husband has had some accusations against him, but do people really hate her over the esophagus thing? Because we really like a stupid conversation about an esophagus on our shows. Like this is something we could build a whole season around. So why do the people don't like her because of that? But because I liked her when she was like, Crystal, when I met you, you told me all these women were uneducated and low class and not real society. So I kind of liked when she said that because Crystal said that.
Well, it's interesting because then it kind of, shakes things up in the group.
Right.
But I think her mannerisms annoy people. It's not necessarily what she's saying all the time, although sometimes it is. It's her
Mhm.
mannerisms. Like Teddy Mellencamp, there's nothing really wrong with her, right? But she just
People
annoys
hate
the
her.
crap out of people. There's just
Yes.
certain things about her. And I think Anne Marie has similar qualities where the way that she talks and the way that she moves in this world is just annoying to a large percentage of the viewers. And
Yeah.
she annoys me. I mean, her talking about the way she approaches medicine is just so different from, I'm quite familiar with the medical community, like how most people I know to approach it. She kind of acts as if she's some sort of neurosurgeon, and they're kind of,
Right.
I don't want to offend anyone, but like neurosurgeons are known for being kind of arrogant, but they also kind of play God at the same time. They remove brain tumors. They, you
By the
know,
way, you know who else is arrogant? Anesthesiologists.
yes,
It's
yes.
kind of
But
a
then
well-known thing because they don't have to do much, but they definitely could end your
and
life right there.
radiologists,
Yes.
yeah, so
Radiologists too, I was gonna say that.
that's what they're yeah,
No
so
offense, don't come at us
no,
anesthesiologists, radiologists, and neurosurgeons if you have time to listen to the show.
no, I think it's just like a thing that they're known for. It doesn't mean every single person fits that mold, of
But you
course.
have to have them, and they better be good, so who
And
cares if they're arrogant?
yes,
Yeah.
she's arrogant in like a really like dumb way because she's clearly not well read on this topic. It's very obvious that whatever Sutton's talking about is a real legit medical condition.
My
It's
friend Emily has this
Yeah,
condition.
I've heard other people reach out to me that listen to the podcast that are like, I have this and it's genetic. And like my sibling has it and my parent has
Yeah.
it. And I'm like, oh, wow.
She's
I
had to
wasn't
go and get her
sure.
yeah, she's had to go and get her esophagus stretched, and we'll go to restaurants and she'll say, "I'll have, water I need at room temperature." Like, she can't have anything cold or ice because that affects her, like, breathing. Like, she's literally the whole time Sutton is describing this like, "Well, I have a tiny esophagus." I was like, "Oh, my friend Emily has that."
And the part that I think most of the viewers have caught on to is that, okay, let's say she doesn't actually have this and she's just not eating. Then what are
Uh-huh.
you trying to catch her in? Do you trying to prove that she has an eating disorder? And
Right.
like what good does that do?
And
Like
is that
that
your place?
actually
You don't even know this woman. You're not coming out of a place of concern.
exactly. It's never been a place of concern. It's been a place to try and shame her for how she does or does not eat or
Yeah.
drink.
Okay.
And that's what I think the audience is reacting to. It's just kind of nasty and she keeps bringing it up and it's weird.
Yeah, and I'm sure the producers are prodding her because they're like, "What if we have nothing else this whole season?" And they're prodding her like, "Oh, we'll make it esophagus gate," you know? Um, I do love Crystal. I love Crystal a lot, but I did fully believe it when Amory's like, "When I met you, you said nobody has any education." They roll it back to a clip a couple of years ago, and Crystal was like, "None of these women have went to college, right?" It's like, it's not cool. Whether they did or they didn't, they could still be smarter than you, you know?
Exactly. Like formal education does not necessarily equal intelligence. There's so many different ways that you can be intelligent. And I think sometimes the things that the women talk about can be quite vapid, right? Like
Yeah.
Dorit's always talking about like stupid stuff that really doesn't have a lot of consequence. And we've never gotten deep with her. But I do feel like some of the women can get real deep. It's just you have to spend time one on one and it has to be the right moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think about, like, a real socialite would be, Diana Jenkins, and
Mhm.
she definitely didn't go to college. I mean, she's a real socialite, you know? So, Crystal, get your facts straight. Okay. Um, so thoughts on Kyle. So, it's I don't know, on a podcast, on a, Instagram, I don't know. People are kind of implying that she's playing all this stuff up with Morgan as her friend because she is putting out a documentary about Morgan Wade. So that'll make more people watch it because they want to see like, ooh, what's going on here. Um, and whenever you see people with paparazzi pictures, you've heard and I've heard a million times like that doesn't just happen. There aren't paparazzi walking around the streets of La Quinta or, Aspen. They're just not. They are told to be there. So, like we used to see, Braun with one of her
Oh my
girlfriends
god.
walking on the beach. Like, do you think there are paparazzi just sitting on the beach in Malibu and happened to catch this?
They were like in
Like,
Orange County. They weren't even in Malibu.
yeah, it's like so when you put it in that context, you're like, maybe she is really having troubles with Mo, and she has befriended this girl that is younger than one of her daughters, and they got a genuine friendship over, sobriety and their love of music. And then Kyle was so interested in her story with her breast cancer journey, and her mastectomy because of what her mother had and all this. So it is, compelling and it is a good cause to talk about. So maybe Kyle's like, maybe if I just sort of lean into it, it'll get people talking and more people watch the documentary, and then a season from now, Mo and I are fine, you know?
Oh, I think her and Mo are not fine, and I don't think they ever will be again.
Really?
Yeah, I think that everything has shifted under her feet. I think she doesn't know who she is anymore because what grounded her was she was a wife, she was a mother, she was good at both of those things. She could throw parties, and now none
And a
of those, I
sister,
mean,
don't forget that sister
and a sister,
aspect.
yes. And not that those things don't matter anymore, but she's kind of re-examined everything after her friend's death. She's like, what is this all for? What
Yeah,
really makes me happy? And I think being a mom makes her happy, but she's been doing that I mean, she had her first kid at 19 and she now has a 15-year-old. She's almost kind of not done. You're never done being a mother, but you're maybe going to have kids out of the house or at least not dependent on you in the same way.
yeah,
And she's like, what's left? And at her and Mo, I think, have actually grown apart as they've gotten older. It's exactly like who's that? Alison Dubois said. I think he did emotionally fulfill her at certain points in her life, but he is addicted to his job and to expanding the agency. Like,
Yeah.
there is not enough of an expansion that he will say, like, okay, we've made it, I can relax now. He's just
Yeah.
not that kind of guy. So he's constantly looking for new offices to open, expanding, expanding, expanding. And that means less time with Kyle and the daughters. And this was a time where she really needed him to be around. And
When
he,
her friend died.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
And also, as the, children leave the house, you kind of need to. I remember my parents telling me, you kind of like look at each other like, whoa,
Oh,
what do we
yeah.
do now? Like, well, we get to, like, should we go to dinner? Like, should we see a movie? Like, what do we do now?
Mandy,
How do
all
we
my
spend
friends
our
are in
time?
almost all my friends are in this position right now. I'd say most of my closest friends have kids exactly my kid's age or 1 year staggered, and because John was held back, he's still a senior in high school, but most of my friends now have both of their kids gone to college, and I can speak, like, for producer Ingrid, she's, like, was fully depressed. She's like, "W now I'm just gonna, like, work and go to the gym and walk the dog, like, what?" And it really I think it does mess with you quite a bit. Now, I'm in a different situation in that I had one leave and one return to the nest. So the house is still full here. So every time any of my friends are like, "Oh," and like, I'm like, "You could just go to a movie if you want. You could nobody's asking you for dinner," because I still have the senior in high school. And maybe if next year when he goes to college and if my older one decides like, "Hey, now it's time. I think I'm gonna get an apartment," she's saved up enough money and stuff, and we really are empty nesters, then maybe I'll feel differently. But right now, I'm like, "Sounds pretty good. Sounds
I
pretty
think
good."
I think people that aren't in the situation are like, "Wow, that sounds good," and people who are, it's sort of like a loss of identity in a way,
Yeah.
and it's like your daily routine has also changed, and I think Mo's daily routine is changed. I think he has gotten busier and busier and busier, like progressively more busy, and in the beginning when he was starting the agency, at least he was still in California,
Mhm.
when he was getting up and started. Now it's international. Now
And they
he's
and
like,
that was a really big rift in their family too. That was another sister drama
yes.
because he left Hilton Highland, which is Kathy Hilton's husband's firm. So, yeah, I mean,
And I
it's a
bet he
lot
took a bunch
there.
of clients.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot, and I think that she's just trying to figure it all out and trying to figure out who she is now that she doesn't have 4 girls dependent on her, that her husband doesn't need her in the same way.
Yeah.
Like, she can kind of, and then she's wondering, "What do I want?" Because she's always done things for everyone else, to make her sisters, to appease her sisters, to appease her husband, to, like, be there for her kids, and I think she's so removed from what she likes, like, she's just trying to figure out what that is again, and I think the reason,
Do you think what
yeah.
she likes is lesbian love?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
I
I
don't.
don't.
I think if she was with Morgan, she would be upfront about it. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it would be more obvious and maybe cause an issue with the girls, like her daughters. I'd be pissed if I had a parent that chose to be with someone like, younger than me. Like,
Yeah.
that would bother me, and the
Yeah.
kids seem fine with her. Like, I think that it's an actual friendship, and I think she's kind of replaced Lorene in a way. She's replaced
Oh, that's a
Lorene.
great point.
Yeah. And Mauricio, like, what she's finding, what she was looking, and her sisters, like, the
Mhm.
kind of support, and she's also trying to learn from Morgan, because Morgan just doesn't give a fuck. She does
Right.
what she
Obviously.
wants, and she
Right.
lives out loud, and Kyle doesn't know how to do that. So she's trying to learn, like, how do I live for myself?
I think that's a great point because Morgan obviously is like, "Hey, I'm gonna pursue my passion of music," and, 1 out of a million people will make it in any kind of music genre. So probably Kyle's like, at what age did you decide you wanna do this? Like, how come I don't have, like, my thing? She doesn't have her thing. She's never had, like, a 9 to 5 job or something that she's so passionate about that she could do that every day and not miss the fact that she's not throwing parties or her husband. I think that, her saying she wishes he would put as much energy into their relationship as he puts into expanding the agency, and she's been there with him since he had nothing, not a dollar, And here she's helped him by raising the kids and doing all this stuff and attending the parties and lending her celebrity to he and his daughter's getting a spinoff show. Like all of that is because of Kyle. And she's like, and then when I've told him I need him because, her friend died, she's got these major things going on. And she's like, and he can't give it to me. So it is interesting. We see a clip from next week and they are talking about going to therapy. So I'm like, okay, maybe.
I also am always drawn back to something that Eliza Rosen mentioned,
Okay.
which is that when Eliza had Kyle on her podcast, she asked Kyle, were you raised to keep secrets? And Kyle
Mm-hmm.
said, wasn't everyone?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think she keeps things so close to her chest. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think she shares with most of her friends what's going on in her life. She, I think, also may not know. Like she knows does not feel close to Mauricio, that maybe she doesn't really want to be married to him anymore, but she's not sure what that looks like. So until she's sure like what that might look like, she doesn't want to come out and say it because she won't be able to answer all of the follow-up questions that people have. Well,
I'm
did
going
you
to tell you
file
one
for
thing.
divorce? Yeah.
Hearing what I heard on that Sprinter van about her finances, it's not going to look good. California is a 50-50 state, all that. And she gets 50 of whatever he has, et cetera, et cetera. But if she's been signing documents for years about homes they own and all that, that's not good. It's not good. She's going to need a lawyer to like fine tooth comb it like Sutton's did.
Yeah. Like a forensic attorney or a
Yes.
forensic accountant or whatever it's called to trace like what assets they have. But maybe they don't want to get divorced. Maybe they just want to legally separate for a bit. That plenty of people do that who have high
Yes.
net worth,
They could also find a new house that has two separate masters, excuse my coughing, two separate masters and, so maybe some shared space in the middle, like roommates, and just be like, you do you, I'll do me, and we'll see each other at breakfast.
And I think they have such shared love of their daughters. Like
Of course. Yeah.
they were aligned when they were raising the kids. When the kids were young, I think they were very much in step. And as
Yeah.
the kids have gotten older, I think they've gotten out of step. And I think that her interests have changed. Like she's not interested in parties anymore. She likes to get up at 5 a.m. and work out. She
Oh
doesn't
my
want to
God.
drink anymore.
Right.
He's becoming maybe he always has been, but he seems to be like a party animal. We see him in
Yeah.
Aspen hanging out with some TikTokers, uncorking like champagne and it just
Yeah.
acting kind of crazy. And that
Not
seems to
cute.
be, it's just the opposite of what Kyle enjoys doing, the
Yeah.
exact opposite. So
But
they
she would have
really,
enjoyed it like 5 years ago.
exactly. Like
She would have been doing
they
the
haven't,
splits and twirling her hair.
and when couples don't grow together, if the communication is there, you can find ways to make it work. But I just don't think they had like a solid communication. And I don't know that she knows how to talk about her feelings.
Yeah.
She'd rather be passive aggressive. She's not going to tell him, I want you to be there for me when I have this event to honor my friend. So she's going to say, it's okay that you go, knowing he's going to look bad. Right. And then
Yeah.
she's going to say in the confessional, it would have been nice to have him when he flat out asked her, should I be there? Sometimes you just need to tell your partner, like, this is what I need. They
I would be like,
can't read
"It's
your
up to you.
mind.
It's up to you. I would like you to be there, and also it's a bad look if you don't show up, but do what you need to do if you need to go to Portugal." That's what I would say. Passive aggressive all day.
That's more to the point, though.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Think
passive
about it.
aggressive. I think that's aggressive aggressive. And I think that's a totally reasonable and valid thing to say to your partner.
I think it's interesting too when they had that conversation about the tattoos and he was like, "I forbid you from getting any more tattoos." And she goes, "Okay, well, that's funny." But she was like, "I don't think he knows how he sounds." And basically, like, she was glad that I think she said it on Watch What Happens Live. She's like, "I was glad he said that on camera to see what he sounds like," which was interesting. Like, he probably said it and later on didn't think a thing about it, but the world did. The world's like, "I forbid you from getting a tattoo? Fuck off. I'll get 3 now,"
Especially knowing that he likely cheated. I feel like she was implying that he cheated in many different scenes this
Yes,
season.
I agree.
And it's her weird way of like saying it, but not saying it at all. Like saying, oh, I don't know when he's coming home. I didn't know if you were going to eat dinner out. I didn't know. And if that's the case, which we don't know if it is, but it seems very plausible, then why the hell would he even like that's extra inflammatory, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, not only am I like trying to control you, I'm also not giving you the attention
Yeah.
that and support that you deserve. I'm actually giving that elsewhere.
Yeah. Oh. Let's quickly shift into Miami. I'm dipping in and out of Miami. I've totally dropped Potomac. I don't have enough
Yeah.
hours in the day, and I feel bad saying it for our local gals, but I'm gonna watch the whole reunion. I feel like I'll be caught up there, but I have so much else going on with other shows that I'm covering, and I love Beverly Hills. I love Vanderpump. I love Miami. It's kind of a new love for me. So, are you watching Miami? I'm sure you are.
Yes, it's one of my favorite franchises at the
Okay.
moment, and it's been for the last 3 years. Like, since it came back, it is so fantastic. The dynamic is constantly shifting
Yes, totally.
in a way that's interesting, and feels authentic, like,
Yeah.
not just sometimes on Salt Lake, it doesn't feel authentic, like, they're just becoming alliances. There are people who are watching Julia and Alexia become genuine friends is so interesting, and seeing Gertie get so frustrated with Larsa, but then Larsa being there for her when they were in the church,
Yeah.
I felt like that was genuine, and so I just love it. I think it's so fun. I love their outfits. I'm not a fashion lady. I don't know a lot of labels. I just like color. And
Yeah.
they are always in color and it's
Yes.
always fun. And I find that to be like, it's so enjoyable to watch.
I, watched this episode last week, where they were on that boat ride from hell
Oh
and,
my
like,
God.
the baby dolls in the trees, and I'm like, "What the actual hell is
It's
happening?"
insane.
It's insane. Now, I will say whatever, producers set that up, like, this will be funny because they'll all freak out and because it's creepy and they can run in and, like, use the bathroom at this place and come back out. Should have put, should have put Juliana damn it, why did I just blank on her name? Ju
Julia.
Julia, I just blanked on
Hmm.
her name. You guys, I had a nerve ablation earlier this morning, and I think that those drugs are still in my system, I'm sorry. Julia, I think they should have had a chat with each other, and whoever is Julia's producer should have said, "This actually might not be great for Julia being that, she lost a child very young as a baby." I did that upset me a little bit.
Yeah, I think they don't have the like emotional. I don't want to speak for producers, but it feels like the women sometimes are put in positions that like this one was just one that you should know. But in general, Bravo doesn't seem to handle things as delicately as maybe they should. A good example is, but when we'll get into it, but the Vanderpump Rules episode this week, which had a lot of mentions of suicide, could have had a trigger warning in the beginning,
Instead
right?
of at the end, right.
Instead of just at the end. So I'm glad that they added resources, but you could say this episode contains discussion of, and some people that may not be someone like Sutton watching may not feel like this is an episode that they want to watch. And so they would
Right.
know to skip it. And so I just don't feel like things are handled as delicately.
Yeah.
And I think grief and also domestic violence are handled pretty poorly by Bravo writ large.
Yeah. And, alcoholism and
Oh
things like
yeah.
that. Just
That one's the most obvious.
that one's most obvious. Um, so you told me that you have started watching The Traitors. You're not caught up. I think we're on 7 episodes
I
now.
know. I'm only 3 in. I love it though. I'm just behind. I've
Did
just
you watch it
been
last season?
Yes, I
You did.
loved
Okay.
it.
Okay. So you knew the premise of it. Okay.
Yes.
How about Love is Blind? Are you gonna dip into that? It comes out
No,
Wednesday the
I
14th.
I haven't seen it at all. I'm a little like the only things I can commit to are Housewives at the moment, and I've
Yeah, I
also
get it.
kind of started to dip on Potomac. It's been really disappointing, and every time I watch, I'm sad
I know. And
because
what
I think about how good it could be
Yes.
and how bad it is, and it's just that makes me sad because it was my favorite franchise.
Thoughts on, Kandi's exit and Portia's return to Atlanta?
I think that will breathe some fresh air
Y
into Atlanta. I
yeah,
think Kandi, she was exhausted last season. She
yeah,
was so busy. I think she sort of graduated. She's never needed the Housewives,
right.
but she did it anyhow. And that's what I appreciated. People who don't need the Housewives sometimes I think are more likely to be their authentic selves
Uh-huh.
than those who clearly need it to earn a
Mhm.
paycheck.
Yeah.
And, Porsha, it'll be really interesting to watch her in her new marriage. She is shady as hell. She can produce, it'll be interesting to watch. I kind of want them to bring Phaedra back, which I know is very controversial. And I know she's unmarried to Medicine, but like the whole reason she wasn't on Atlanta is because of Kandi. And I know that what she did was so, so terrible and accusing Kandi of
Absolutely. Yes,
sexual,
yes,
like that
yes.
is like, I know. And it's just, but every time I watch her, like whether it's on Ultimate Girls Trip or Traders, I'm just like, I want to see more of her. I don't know what it is. Like,
I
and
agree. I agree. I
I
love
feel
her.
so bad saying
She's
that. I love
so funny.
her.
She's so funny. She's got the one-liners. She always has. She always has. She had the one-liners before people like got their best friends to like tell them funny one-liners,
Yeah.
Like she's always been it. And so I think if she did come back, she would have to come with some contrition and apologies to Portia, to Kandi, to the girls at large of like, way back then, here's what happened. I got caught up in this and, I got a husband that's in and out of prison and it was a terrible time. And I shouldn't have done that. And I did. And I did it because I thought it would be great for the show and it wasn't. And I apologize. Come out honest and open, and I don't know how good she is at that.
She's not. I mean,
Trying to be nice.
I don't
Trying
think
to be
any
nice.
of them are though. Like no housewife is really good at apologizing, right? None of these reality show people. There's very few that know how to honestly apologize and take accountability.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. When you're a parent, you'll have your fair share of big talks with your kids. Don't I know it? And one of those big talks should be involving money. Greenlight can help with that. Why is it so hard to talk about money? I don't know. But Greenlight is a debit card and a money app made for families. You can send your kids instant money transfers, get real-time notifications of their spending, manage their chores, and automate allowance. So you can set up recurring or one-time chores. I did this with my kids, like empty all the trash in the house and you'll get $5. Help a dad, empty the dishwasher, get $1. I really actually had fun setting it up, and the kids really liked it when they were little because they could look on the app and see exactly how much they had earned, and then half would go to savings and then half would go to them. It was great. It was a great way to talk about these things. So your kids are going to be building financial literacy and independence. They learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. The Greenlight app also comes with an in-app financial literacy game, Level Up, that helps kids build money confidence through videos, bite-sized challenges, mini games, and more. And kids, they love to be on their phone and they love an app. More than 6 million parents and kids use Greenlight to learn how to make responsible financial choices. My 2 kids are a part of that. So stop putting off the money talk and start putting your kids on the right path. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/pinkshade. That's greenlight.com/pinkshade, and try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/pinkshade. All right, y'all, I have to tell you about Factor. Factor has delicious, ready-to-eat meals, and they make eating better every day easier. You could choose from 35 different options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie. I got this like deconstructed chicken burrito. So it's like the shredded chicken with the salsa, with the black beans and the rice. Oh my gosh. I popped it in the microwave for 2 minutes. It was so good, way better than something I could have made at home in that amount of time. Plus, it was so easy. So they have these 2-minute meals, they have snacks, smoothies, and more. I also got some of these like green juice shots because I know that's good for me, but I'm never going to make it at home. So I got some of those. I've loved those. My husband really likes those. And you sign up and save, and they've done the math. Factor is less expensive than takeout, of course, because takeout's so expensive. Every meal is dietitian approved to be nutritious and delicious. Factor is really the perfect solution if you're looking for fast, upscale options done easily. And they come on your schedule. Get as much or as little as you need by you choose just 6 to 18 meals a week. So if you're not going to be home very much, you choose the 6. If you know you're going to be home for every meal, get the 18. You can pause, you can reschedule anytime. And it's no mess, no prep, 100% ready to heat and eat. So head to factormeals.com/pinkshade50 and use code pinkshade50 to get 50% off. That's code PINKSHADE50 at factormeals.com/PINKSHADE50, and you're going to get 50% off. Well, that brings us to Vanderpump Rules. So, all right, Vanderpump Rules. So the Sur Alley is back.
Oh my gosh.
We're back where we started.
I missed it. Watching those, like, what are they? The tanks of what, petrol or gas? Well, I don't know.
Propane
The
or something.
propane. I have no idea.
It's just dumpsters for miles. It's just dumpsters. Oh my God. When you were at BravoCon, did you take a picture in the Sur Alley?
Of course. And I've
Me
taken a
too.
picture in the actual Sur Alley, and it's glorious.
So, I'm going to LA for over a week in March. And after seeing Vanderpump Dogs, I'm like, I might have to go there.
I know. I wanted to go, and I just didn't have time last time I was in LA.
Squeeze it all in. Okay, so the Sur Alley is back. That gives us happiness. So thoughts on Sandoval. So where we open up on this episode is still at Sandoval's very sad birthday party. And James has left and peed on the bush, which wouldn't be James if he didn't do something stupid. I'm anti-James because he was mean to me at BravoCon. You recall.
Wait, I don't recall that he was mean. What did he do?
Okay, everybody's heard this story. I'll make it brief. We were in the VIP lounge.
Yeah.
No, the Bravo Palooza, the even smaller VIP.
Yeah.
And people were doing pictures and stuff. And so he wasn't one of the ones, like Heather Gay or Meredith Marks that would be up at the front, like on a step and repeat, and people would come take pictures. He was just sort of walking around the room, and people were sort of, hovering around to talk to him and wait their turn. So I was doing that. I was standing there with these two guys and this other girl in front of me. We're just chatting. And the girl in front of me and many people in front of me held up their phone and like, will you make a video for my sister and be like, hey, DJ James Kennedy coming at you, whatever, number one guy in the group. Blah, okay, oh, it's good to meet you. He was doing that for everybody. Selfies, the whole thing, right? So I go up and I go, hey, would you do like a quick little video for my listeners? Like they would love it. Just be like, hey, Bunkies, it's DJ James Kennedy. I was like, you're our number one guy in the group. And I was trying to hype him up. I was like, oh my gosh, I was at the panel when you were doing the push-ups. Like, I love it, blah, blah. And he goes, no.
He hates podcasts.
And he goes, nope, I don't do anything with podcasts. I think podcasts are
okay, I knew this.
And I was like, what?
I've heard this from him before.
Me too.
Yeah, okay, but it is like a sore spot for him. I don't really know why or whatever, but he's someone that lashes out,
He literally goes, if it was like for your small business, I would do it. I go, this is my small business. So, and he goes, what if it was like for your mother or your sister or something? And I was like, goodbye. And all the people in line were all like, oh, like they were like, the literal other people were like, what a dick. And some people just got out of the line and were like, oh my God. Yeah. So he's not my friend anymore, but that's fine. So when, okay.
Well,
so
do you know all the stuff going on around him?
I have heard some rumors regarding some things that Kristen said about him on her podcast, which is another reason he hates podcasts, which I believe to be completely true. I mean, we saw him spit on her door. I mean, we've seen them put hands on each other. Like, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, it's just.
That's all I've heard, though, about the Kristen thing, but I've heard it quite a bit. Is there more than the Kristen thing?
So now Raquel is kind of alluding to, she said something very cryptic on her podcast, which is like, I didn't tell people the real reason I ended my engagement with James because it would ruin his life. So yeah. I'm like, oh God, okay. Yeah, so it sounds like he has like some serious skeletons in the closet, and that producers, I think, have protected him. I mean, the story with Kristen is basically, at least the things that were caught on camera, is at Scheana's wedding. We saw her like punch him or slap him.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
But she says on camera, he hit her first and she responded, and they only aired her response, making it look like she was the aggressor. And they kind of constantly tried to show it that way. And
they shouldn't have shown any of it. Him hitting her or her hitting him. None of it. They could have talked about it in a confessional, but they should have never shown any of that.
Yeah, it's dark. So there's just, and then Allie was recently on Scheana's podcast, and there was a story that Tamra and Teddy put out that they said that Allie and James had been in some sort of physical altercation in a limo with them. And then she
Really?
came out and denied it. So I mean, who knows there's like lots of different stories, but it sounds like he has an issue when he drinks,
Uh-huh.
specifically
Mhm.
with like lashing out at women.
Yes, it does sound like that. Um, and again, all this is alleged. We weren't there.
Yeah, we weren't there.
We weren't there. So, okay, so back to the party. So, James has left and peed on the bush, and it's so stupid. I mean, it's so childish. And then Sandoval and Schwartz are talking, and Sandoval says to Schwartz, what he said to James about, well, what you did to me for 10 years ago, like the biggest, da 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 da. And Schwartz goes, "Oh, man, just say you're sorry." He goes, like, if you keep coming back at people, it's gonna have a real negative impact on your life. And Sandoval's like, but dude, like, I'm not and Schwartz is like, oh my God. I mean, Schwartz is like, come on, we could have had James on our side. But no, can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah,
do it.
he doesn't know how, and he keeps saying like, I said I was sorry. And this reminds me a little bit, I mean, not the same thing, but Taylor on Southern Charm. It's like, just because you apologize doesn't mean people have to, one, accept your apology, and two, doesn't mean that that's the only time that you should ever apologize.
Right.
Right? Like, if it's really genuine, it might happen more than once. Like you say,
Yeah.
like, I'm really sorry about this. I'm going to give you some space. I know that I really messed up.
Yeah.
And I hope that at some point in the future we can have another conversation,
Yeah.
right? And you leave that open. And then your actions follow that. But, just like Taylor felt like, well, just because I forgive people, other people should forgive me. It doesn't always work like
It's not the
that.
way it works. Yeah.
And when you're really sorry, it doesn't really matter to you. It shouldn't matter if the person accepts your apology right away, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
ever, because if you're truly sorry, you just want to let someone know that you are sorry, and you want to get that across. And that's the most important thing that you want to get across.
And then
It's
just
not,
step away and let
and
them
then step
process it.
away and give them space to come back to you if that's what's meant to be.
Yeah.
And Sandoval just doesn't, he's not equipped to do that. There's something in his makeup that just doesn't let him do that.
I
And
mean,
there's no
how many
people.
people on this episode told him? Just
It's
come correct. Just apologize. Just have just a little bit of humility. 3 different people tell him this, and he just
But in
can't get
his
it.
mind, he's apologized. If he says, I'm sorry once, that's enough for him in his mind. And so he's just not quite grasping like the steps that he should have been taking, because in his mind, he was justified in his behavior.
It's wild. So, thoughts of Sandoval talking about how he's still into Raquel and how she didn't reach out on his birthday. And on her podcast, I guess she explained what happened, that he sent her some gifts. And then in the letter, basically said, like, I think you're done there. Like, you should just come home so we could be together and work this out. And that I guess she said this on her podcast, and that she's like, she thought about it and talked to her therapist about it. He was like, this is not somebody who wants the best for you. This is somebody who wants the best for themselves. And you coming out and y'all being together is best for him. He doesn't care that you're there working on yourself. He doesn't care.
Yeah. And
And then she blocked him.
this is so interesting, because I think it was at BravoCon that my friend Jody talked to someone that was either in the Meadows or whose like best friend was in the Meadows with her, like at the
Mhm.
mental health
Okay.
facility. And
Mhm.
back in November said the reason that she's not with Tom is because he tried to get her to leave earlier than she was ready to leave. And
Yeah.
so I'd heard that before. And so then now that it's public, it's just, yeah, I think he really pressured her. I don't think it was just one letter. I think there was phone conversations. I think it was like a consistent, like, you did your 30 days. I've been counting down. I thought it was only 30. I didn't have, an additional 30 days or however long you're going to be there. Like, I didn't plan for that. So, if you want to be with me, like, it's almost like he made it sound like he wasn't willing to wait for her.
Right.
And so then, of course, she's going to decide to do what's best for her, because she
Yeah.
hadn't really done that up until this point,
Yeah. I think that in his mind, he's like, it's much better for PR if you're out and we're together and we can, call a back grid and get some pictures of us together to be like, yeah, it was worth it. Like we are together. Like we got to shoot a whole season of us together, you know?
I think for him, it was also just like that was the only person that he could
Yeah.
lean on and
Yeah.
that would validate his experience with the situation. And when she was gone, he had no person that he could really lean on. I mean, he had Billy Lee and whatever, but it's not the same as the person that was in the trenches with you
Yeah.
with this situation. And so I understand he wanted her there. But yeah, he clearly doesn't care what's best for her.
So we go to emo night, which looks like my worst idea of hell.
I thought it looked so fun. I'm like the
It's
last person
horrible.
who's emo. I never really wear, like, I don't wear a lot of black. Like, I don't, but it just seems so fun to be in a space where you can just like sing along to songs
Yeah.
and no one's looking at you or judging you. That
It was
just
the
seems,
whole like sweaty body jumping up and down together in a
yeah.
group that was like, I'm out. Um, but James tells the group that he went over there. Of course, Allie's like, I sat in the car. Um,
Love
la la.
Allie.
Yeah. So James is saying like, went over there, like I had to bring up the stuff from 10 years ago. Like he absolutely just, can't get it. And Lala says the only people that are around him that are at that party are people that he's paying. So of
Mhm.
course, then they show like bar manager, band manager, or like, Kyle Chan, who he gets jewelry from, whatever. And she says, no one tells him the truth because somehow if they tell him the truth, that he could that'll make him lose her job. And then Sheena's like, I mean, I can't believe that Sandoval reached out to James and not me. I mean, like, he's kind of over and like, I don't know, like, I guess I should talk to him and he should talk to me. So I don't know. I guess it goes both ways. Um, yeah, Sheena, like he's shit talked to you and you should talk to him. So, all right. So,
I
yeah.
find it interesting that Lala made that like statement because you could argue the same thing about her a few years back before when she was with Randall, that she
Mm,
only kept people around her that, I mean, that agreed or that like bought into her whole scenario, and people who were farther away from her were like, this seems shady, right?
yeah,
You
right.
like meet him, you hook up with him, he buys you a Range Rover the next day. Like something's weird about that. That doesn't seem
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't seem, his intentions are exactly what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
But she wouldn't listen to anyone that said anything like
Negative.
anything negative about him. So
Yeah.
she's kind of one to talk, but they all have this like yes people around them. They do. That's
So,
just how, I mean, we all have yes people around us. We all have people who will validate our experiences. And I don't think that's weird. I think what's hard is that even the people that like love him the most, like probably his parents, probably said some tough things, and Schwartz has said some tough things, and it's still not permeating.
nope. And whoever his crisis team is doing a shitty job of getting him, to not go on stage and be like talking about Rachel. And so Schwartz goes, yeah, like I know he's a doucher and everybody hates him, but you don't come across friendships like that. And I don't wanna give up on it. And then he goes to emo night and Sheena's like, hi, did you see my set? And he goes, no, I just got here. She goes, that's what happens if you go hang out with Sarah. Well, her set, I believe, was just her doing a remix of Good as Gold. But whatever. That's fine. We've all heard it. It's probably fun on emo night. Probably fun. All right. So next day we see poor Anne is cleaning up after the party. Poor Anne, our
So
hero.
Sister Anne, love that girl.
And Katie walks in and goes, Anne, do you get paid extra to clean? She's like, you should charge extra. Anne's like, no. So Katie and Ariana are getting IVs. I
By
guess
the
they
way, I hate that.
hate the
Like,
IVs.
so if you get an IV, have it be like the liquids, right? The
Yeah.
saline and Zofran if you're nauseous or whatever. But adding in this like B12, vitamin C, like it's so unhelpful. Like your body can only absorb a certain amount of vitamin C. And then
Mhm.
after that, you're just basically making your kidneys work really hard to filter it out, and you pee it all out. So like why put it in the bag to begin with? I'm sure there's like some like I don't know, not that we're have a shortage of vitamin C, but so much of it is not actually helping you, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so, yeah.
PSA. from Mandy.
I'm just like, don't do it unless like ask your doctor about it.
Yeah, I just say, like, I want one that's for a hangover. I don't need vitamins. I
Yeah,
need
you don't need all
fluids
these
and
like
Zofran.
crazy. Exactly. Exactly.
Um, so they're getting into IVs and they're talking about Sheena's a big softie, and of course she's always going to invite people to things, and the next night we're going to meet up or whatever, and blah blah blah. So it's sort of like Katie wants to be good friends with Scheana, but she's a little wary because she knows at any minute Sheena's going to be like, "Oh, Tom Schwartz is my best friend." So, um, Lisa meets with Sandoval in the empty shell of Pump.
Oh.
R.I.P. Aren't you glad you got to go there one time?
I've been there a couple times and I
Only
loved
I've
it.
only went once. Only went
It
once.
was
Rip.
great.
A lot of trees. There's a lot of trees hanging over your food. It's a lot.
I
A
think
lot of
they
trees in
had
a
this
restaurant.
drink that I liked called, I think it's called like Pump and Glory or something like that.
Wow.
And they had like pictures of it. And me and Steve, Faces by Bravo, like went through a whole picture like one day at brunch with my friends. And it was just insane. It was so fun.
It could have been the pitcher. Could have been a pitcher that did it, not the drink itself. Yeah.
It was a good time. Anyways.
I love when you tell stories about you drinking too much because you're really not like a party or drinker kind of gal.
I like never do.
And so when you tell stories,
happens,
I love it. I love it so much.
Just, yeah, it's pretty rare. And always something crazy happens.
So Lisa sits down with him in the empty shell of Pump. And he's like, I brought you some flowers. And she goes, okay. He goes, like, I know, dude, it's like bringing like sand to a beach, but here. And she's like, puts him to the side. So he says, Lisa, it's been a lot for me. And she goes, okay, like, let's break down what you're saying. It's a lot for you. And he goes, I had my friend die, which of course is horrible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And he says, Scheana reached out to me to say sorry, but then she released a podcast talking shit about me and spreading a rumor that I was with Billy Lee. And then this guy, Nima, that Rachel dated, Scheana had him on her pod and told like sexually explicit stuff. And also, that I said me and Ariana had an open relationship. I never said that. And like the band has a grueling fucking work schedule, and like I can't win. Like if I cry, it's crocodile tears, and if I work, then I'm like an asshole. And she's like, "Okay, darling." Now, before we go into the unaliving himself conversation, I want to ask you: is Nima the same Nima from Shaws of Sunset?
Yes, it's the same.
Stop.
Name. Yes.
I just threw my pen down. I did not know that was the Nima with the big fake teeth.
Yes, they dated in May of 2022.
She started her thing up with him in August.
Yes, I believe like the end of July
of
2022.
Wow, that's the same guy.
Yes.
So they're all just incestually dating only Bravo people.
And I believe that she brought him, and I could be wrong, to Hannah Berner's wedding.
Okay, that's a deep cut because I know that I know she's a Summer House person, but other than that,
I could be totally wrong, right? But
somebody let us know.
Feel like I saw that, or they met at the wedding.
I have something to say about Hannah Berner. I heard her recently on a podcast, and I don't get it. I don't find her funny. I don't find her edgy. I don't get the like, I barely know what she looks like, but just listening to her on a podcast, I was like, I don't get it. I don't find her
I saw
interesting.
Her do stand up live, and I also didn't quite get it. What makes her likable is when she's with Paige and they have their podcast together because they play off of each other in a very funny way, and they're very cute, and they talk about things that are pretty relatable, and they laugh a lot, and they're funny. On her own, I don't think she doesn't do it for me.
My niece, who's 30, loves their podcast. So
yeah,
that's the market, not me. I get it. Okay. What if you could get an extra 43 hours of sleep per year? Here's a secret. You won't get that with any old cotton sheets, but you will with Clean Bamboo. Clean Bamboo sheets feel unlike anything you've ever slept on. And no, it won't cost you a ton because right now you can get $35 off your first order with code PINKSHADE at Attitude. These unbelievably soft Clean Bamboo sheets have over 20,000 five-star reviews. I myself have written a review because I have gotten them for my bed and my son's bed and now my daughter's bed because she got jealous because my son got new sheets. So when I'm scrounging around for seconds or minutes of rest, sending up a desperate prayer that my alarm clock doesn't break through the haze of my morning misery, that extra time that you get with these sheets is a godsend. It is the epitome of accessible luxury. And it's not just the softness that does the trick. In the study itself, 94% of participants preferred Attitude sheets to competitors, which means you're going to sleep better throughout the night and wake up feeling more rested than ever before. You guys, these sheets are so good. They're those sheets, they stay cool, so you're not like sweating all night if you're a lady of a certain age. Attitude sheets are the secret to better sleep. They're so sure you'll love sleeping with them. You can try Attitude bedding risk-free for 30 nights. And if you're not completely satisfied, you can return it for a full refund. Never miss a full good night's sleep of rest and recovery again with Attitude. You can get $35 off your order plus free shipping for a limited time when you go to attitude.com/pinkshade. That's ETTITUDE.com/pinkshade. Today's podcast is sponsored by Little Spoon. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're a fan of drama, but meltdowns, tantrums, and food fights at your kitchen table, that's where we draw the line. Let Little Spoon eliminate mealtime drama for you and your family. Little Spoon delivers fresh, healthy meals and snacks that your kid will love. That's for every single eating stage. They've got the baby blends for the little babies, like one of my sweet little new nephews that I've got. They've got the biteables. These are transition foods. Then we have the plates for the toddlers, the smoothies, which are healthy snacks, the lunchers, which is a fresh take on an old school classic. They're build-it-yourself lunches, like easy cheesy pizza and chicken dunkers. And there's snacks. They have a wide variety of junk-free, better-for-you snacks. It shows up to your door, you pop it in the fridge, you pop it in the freezer, and then when it gets to be around that witching hour, you just get it out and serve it up. So flexible and so easy, and you can change what you're getting every single week. Simplify your kiddo's mealtime with 30% off your first order. Go to littlespoon.com/pinkshade and enter the code pinkshade at checkout to get 30% off your Little Spoon first order. That is littlespoon.com/pinkshade. Enter code pinkshade at checkout and you're going to get 30% off your first order. So maybe I'm just too old. Okay, that's fine.
You're not too old.
So then he tells her, he's had some dark, because she's trying to push back with everything he says. Like she's like, Tom, you need to heal yourself. You need to have more empathy, Tom. And then he drops this bomb that, of course, he's had dark days. He's had very dark thoughts where he did contemplate suicide. And he said, and then she goes, stop right there. And she says to him dead seriously, like, this is a huge trigger for me because my only sibling did this. And, when he said things like that to me, like maybe you're going to always feel like you didn't do enough. She says, don't, for me particularly, this is a huge issue. So don't say that to me. It's very serious. And he's like, then don't tell me how to fucking feel, Lisa. Go ahead. And Lisa is like, okay, now I'm hearing you and I want to take you seriously. And, in her mind, she's like, no matter what horrible stuff he did, nobody deserves to feel that way. Of course, nobody wants that to happen. So she's like, now I'm going to look at it from a different angle and have a little empathy for him.
Yeah.
Which is fine. She's known him for a long time. So Lisa tells him, Tom, I am trying to help you move forward. The only way to repair this is with utter sensitivity and contrition. He's like, boy, he's got his arms crossed. He's like, oh. And she says, just say that you understand it without fighting me. Like, don't fight with me. Say you get it. You need to handle it with sensitivity and contrition. And he goes, I heard you. But he didn't, because he keeps doing it.
Yeah, like I said, it's not cutting through.
Because it's not that he doesn't think he did anything wrong. He just thinks everybody should be over it by now. Because he and Ariana sometimes had sex and she left her shirt on. So everybody should understand and just be over it by now.
I guess he just, a part of me very much empathizes with him. And one thing I don't like about us as viewers is we act as if we have a limited amount of empathy and we can only give it out to those who are the most deserving.
Yeah.
And I think every human being deserves some level of empathy. And I agree with Lisa that the punishment didn't fit the crime of like, there's no reason why he should be on the ticker on CNN, right? Or why there should be like a Wall Street
Right.
Journal article, because that's the only
Right.
paper my dad reads, and he found out about this and asked me questions.
Oh, my
So
sisters who don't watch any of this were like, we were at the beach, and I was like, "You guys, I have to watch this literally for my job." And it was, either the last episode or episode 1 of the reunion, and I was like, "I have to watch it. I have to take quick notes while I'm watching it, and then they're gonna play it back to back, and I'm gonna watch it again." And they were
mhm.
like, "We're in, we're in." I was like, "You may not talk until a commercial." And they're like, "Let's do it. Let's go." Like, because they had
Yeah.
read about it. They had never
Yes.
watched the show.
So I cannot imagine, I always say this, being, you know, my life being plastered all over the news, everyone talking about it, being bullied
Yeah.
online.
Yep.
I mean, the amount of messages he probably got telling him to kill
Yes.
himself.
Right.
I mean, people get that for like the dumbest things. I mean, yeah, he did something terrible, but the amount of mess that does impact someone's mental health, and the stress and the anxiety. I feel for him, and this was one of the first things I thought of after like the first couple of weeks when I realized it wasn't going to die down. I was like, "Oh wow, this is really going to have a profound impact on him and Rachel and Raquel and everyone, because there's constant stories. They can't keep up with them. The podcasts are coming out, everything is going on, and the amount of people cannot handle that much stress, that much information. We're just not built to take that all in. And so I do feel bad. That being said, he didn't make it easier. And part of me wondered why he didn't go away somewhere just to work on himself, to figure out like why he did what he did. Because clearly it hurt everyone around him. It hurt his partner of 9 years, it hurt his businesses, it hurt his family, it hurt his friends, it hurt every single person around him. And so if I were him, I'd be like, "Wow, what happened in my life to lead me to make these choices? Because
Right.
I clearly went wrong somewhere along the way, and let me try and figure this out." And that's kind of what Rachel said she was doing. And I commend her for it. I don't
Yeah.
like that she's having a podcast now, because then she's not really doing the work. She's making money. And I get it. Like, she's like, everyone else made money off this.
Yeah.
No,
I do
but
too.
if you're gonna, then go back on the show, right? Like, come to share your story there. Um, of course, it's a free
She'll make a
country.
lot more money.
She can
She'll
do
make a
whatever
lot more
right?
money make on a podcast, I think,
Yeah.
sharing it. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. She was making a lot of money on the show, you know? So, uh, anyways, I feel like the fans are just so relentless in a way that makes me uncomfortable, because we act like vigilantes. Like, it's our job to be the arbiter of justice
Yeah.
and to let people know when they've been wrong. And like, it's clear, it doesn't matter if it's his mom or his best friend or Lisa telling him you messed up. He's not quite getting it. He just
Right.
isn't, right? He knows he did something bad. He doesn't know how bad. And he thinks that in some way there was reasons why he did it that are valid, right?
Yes, that's right.
And that's the part, he's just not getting it. So like, people should just stop trying to make him get it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Just sort of
I think
not
Rachel
like,
handled it the right way. Whatever PR
okay.
crisis team she handled led her in all the right directions,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
he didn't take any advice.
so, okay, here is a message for your listeners. If
Okay.
you are not watching the Vanderpump Rules after show, you are not watching the show correctly. They have an
Okay. Well,
after
that
show
means me.
now. Okay.
I feel personally, violated by that
I would
statement.
have never known there was an after show,
Me
except
either.
for it somehow popped up first thing on my Peacock. And I was like, wait, what? They have an after show like Beverly Hills? And I don't think the Beverly Hills after show is like as insightful. This one is very insightful. It's like 23 minutes straight of them talking in groups. So it's like Tom and Tom,
Huh?
it's Katie and Ariana, and then it's Lala, James, and Scheana. And they're sharing things that I feel like would be so helpful to see on the show. They're giving explanations. Like, Ariana explained the living situation and why she can't just walk away in a way that really made sense to me.
Mhm.
That she did not articulate on the show in a helpful way. Scheana said something fascinating in this week's episode, which is, when they were talking about, is Ariana acting like Queen Bee? And Scheana did say, she doesn't really ask me about myself. And I think that the rest of them kind of have that experience with her. And I don't know if that's a new experience or if
I would think it's new because I don't think that's the Ariana we've seen before.
Right. But, she's booked and busy, and I don't think she has time for everyone else's feelings.
Yeah.
And, I understand it, but it's interesting to hear, because before it was like, well, she's my best friend. She's my best friend. So of course I'm going to stand with her. But then there's little cracks, and it helps to give a fuller picture of what's going on.
Interesting. Well, back to the show. So
I'm like giving people extra homework.
No, listen, now I'm like, all right, I got nothing to do tonight.
No, it is really interesting. It makes the show make sense, because otherwise it sometimes doesn't make sense.
On the Traitors, you should watch the post-mortem, because they do a little post-mortem on each episode.
Wait, really?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go back and watch the first 3 tonight.
Yeah.
The first 3 postmortems. Okay.
So, now I see Ariana and Lala, and they're in a store shopping, and they're talking about, are they going to go to See You Next Tuesday with James? And like, is he sober? And, Lala makes a great point, which is like, you can't just tell somebody, go with me to a meeting. You can't tell them they're not doing sobriety right. Like, you can't. Like, if he wants to come to me, I'll help him. And that's how this works. And she's completely right. And I love sober Lala. I do.
Me too.
I love her.
And
sorry. I know she's been awful in the past, but I love her.
It's frustrating to see James call himself sober and other people repeat that, because he is not. He's just abstaining from alcohol.
He's California sober, but
that's not sober.
I don't Schwartz is like, you doing like a little mushrooms? I was like, what world?
Someone told me, have you heard about Miami sober?
Oh no, it's just tequila. What?
No, it's like, you don't drink alcohol, but you do Coke. Like, it's just pointing out how ridiculous it is to say that you are sober when you are not sober. Like, sober is abstaining from all drugs.
Yeah, just say I'm not drinking anymore.
All drugs that are not prescribed to. Yeah, you know what I mean.
So now we see Schwartz. He goes in for the dog grooming, and that's where I was like, can I go to Vanderpump Dogs? I'd love one of those beds with a headboard for my dogs. Like, how cute. They were so cute.
So adorable.
So, he goes in for some dog grooming, and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to see if I could stop and talk to you, Lisa. So she says, yeah. He talks about, speaking of alcoholism on this show, he says his brother Bert, who's one of the triplets, has been very sick. He's been in and out of rehabs. He has gone into, did he have cirrhosis? He had cirrhosis.
It's suspected, yeah.
Suspected cirrhosis. And once you get to that point, it is very hard unless you get a liver transplant, which is also very hard. I have someone in my family that got a liver transplant in the last year, and the requirements to even get on the list.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was supposed to get one. She had autoimmune disorder that impacted her and gave her cirrhosis. And I was going to try and give her part of my liver, and she didn't make it.
Yeah. It's a very serious thing.
Very serious. And it is gruesome to watch liver failure in real time. It is horrifying.
Yeah. My, the person in my family that had it, it was like, we were just like, well, this person's not going to make it. I mean, they're just not, but they did. And, they got a transplant, and it was like a total miracle. So
become an organ donor.
Everybody be an organ donor. So, okay. So he talks about that, and it's really hard. And, he does say that seeing that what happened to his brother, and it was brought on by an incident, he says it does make him, look at himself and how much he drinks and all that. I was like, well, you're maybe 10 years too late to that, but listen, better late than never. You can regenerate. You can, get better. So then she says, Lisa talks to Schwartz, like, I talked to Sandoval, and he said something to me very serious and talking about the unaliving. And Schwartz is like, yeah, like I heard that from somebody else. Like, he didn't even tell me that. And, meaning Sandoval said this to several people, including Lisa, and it got back to Schwartz. And he was like, yeah, like that, nobody wants that for anybody. And then she says, but listen, total surprise. I was not planning to say this, darling, but I'm opening a new restaurant in Lake Tahoe called Wolf.
Wolf by Vanderpump.
It's going to be the sexiest restaurant in Lake Tahoe. All right. I'm into it.
I am
Wolf.
too. I'll go to Wolf. I actually think Wolf sounds better than half the other things that she's opened. Vanderpump
Yeah.
Cocktail Garden. No, thank you. Paris. No. Wolf. That's where I'm at.
Sexy, unique restaurant. No, no. Wolf, I'm there. I'm there. I'm there. So she's like, and I want to invite everyone to come, and maybe you could all, put your differences aside. And so this is what we know from pictures and stuff we saw, that people that were at Lake Tahoe that saw everyone there filming. People were up in arms because like somebody came up was like, "Can I get a picture?" And Ariana is in the picture, and Sandoval is also in the picture, and Scheana's in the picture.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Yeah. I vaguely.
And at that Lake Tahoe trip, people see that James is there with the renamed Hippy Dippy Doo. And people assumed maybe that Raquel had brought him the dog or whatever. But I think at this point, they are still thinking she's going to get out soon. She's going to come on the show.
Yeah. I think, and
Just-
that's why Lala, I think, reached out to her in the first episode.
Absolutely.
Is clearly a producer trying to get her to have at least one person on her side,
Yeah.
to kind of lure her to come back. And she, said no.
No. So now they're at Sir for See You Next Tuesday, and Schwartz gives Lala some sober curious drops. He's like, kind of sober curious, and like she says, like, there's no alcohol, like you could look. And Allie goes, "Oh my god, I'm super curious too." And Sheena goes, "I'm 3 weeks sober. This is some medication that I'm taking." And I'm like, "Why is Shishu wearing sunglasses at night?" And Lala's like, "Okay, I've really heard it all. Sober curious, okay, yeah, but it's okay. Let him do it. Why not?"
I think it's great that they're all trying to re-examine their relationship with alcohol. And,
They're all in their 40s. It's time.
I mean, Allie's in her 20s still.
Okay, well, yeah.
But in general, I think they're realizing that not a lot of positives come from drinking and a lot of negatives actually come. And when you don't drink, there are more positives in your life. And they're kind
Yeah.
of like, but that yet they've been in this world and they're around drinking so much that it is so normalized to get shit-faced all the time and to take other drugs along with it, such as Adderall or cocaine. Like that is just
They're
so
very into mushrooms on this show. Very.
well, yeah, no, Schwartz and Sandoval are. That was always interesting. Where he was like, "I've been 8 months sober." I'm like, if you're doing mushrooms, oh my god! And like, no wonder Ariane when he was like, she wouldn't do mushrooms with me. Like he talked about this on the after
Yeah.
show. Like he wanted to have experiences with her, and he said her version of quality time was only one thing, and he had all these ideas of quality time that they all sounded crazy. I mean,
she's like, "I just want to sit on the couch and watch Love Island." He's like, "But what if we like took mushrooms and went out to the desert and danced?" And she's like, I've done that. It's called Coachella. I don't want to do it. I want to sit on the
yeah,
couch."
it sort of feels like in some of these shows, and we're seeing it with Shep and others, like people are starting to grow up and mature, and their interests change and their behavior changes along with that. And then others are still stuck in what they were interested at 23. And they're kind of looking around like, why is everything changing? Like, why are people having babies? Like, why are people not drinking? Like, what happened? Why can't we go back to the way it was when we all used to be like me? And I think it's hard for them.
Yeah, and I'll be interesting too because when the scandal and everything happened, Jax was on a little bit of a making the rounds, and he's whatever PR information he got, he took it to heart. He's like, "I've done terrible things. I've done terrible things. Like I wouldn't. I'm a cheater. I've cheated. I've cheated on the woman I married." Like Jax is so like lays it out there, forward. "I'm sorry. I've done terrible things. Blah blah blah." So it'll be interesting to see because in the past, Jax has been more like Sandoval. Like, well, I mean. Of course I had to bang another girl. I mean, she was there. What am I?
Right. And
A
he'd be
eunuch?
like, you're perfect. He would always be like, all you people are perfect. It's like,
Yeah.
stop saying that.
Yes. So it's interesting that Jax took some notes and has turned it around a little. It'll be interesting on Vanderpump Valley or the Valley Village, the Vanderpump. I don't know what the hell it's called. It'll be interesting on that
The
show
Valley.
to see if they miss an opportunity not to call it Vanderpump Valley, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah. So, okay. So back to the sober journey. Okay, Schwartz tells James, he goes up to him at DJ James Kennedy booth and tells him about the trip to Lake Tahoe. And then he goes over and tells everybody else. There's Allie, Scheana and Brock, Lala, Ariana and Katie. And Schwartz is like, yeah, like I want you guys to come. Like we're gonna open like Wolf, and it's a complicated situation. Like you can book your own spot. Like you don't have to see me or Tom or whatever. And Lala goes, why do you feel the need to continue with this friendship? Like why do you feel that? And she says, because I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to tell you something too. Lala is right. She says,
Mhm.
Schwartzy, the day will come when he will devastate you, and you will look back and think, I should have dumped him when this shit happened. And he was like, well, I don't know, because we're like really good friends and trying to work through it. And Ariana's just like, I cut you out of my life and I'm a better person for it. So like, I don't give a shit. And none of us are going. Um, and she says, it seems like no matter what anybody says to you, it falls on deaf ears. And he goes, yeah, Ariana, like, I mean, you can't speak on behalf of the group. Like, you're not the queen of the group. I mean, your ego's like, I don't know. And she goes, what? And then she says in her confessional, she was like, I guess he's, misconflating ego with boundaries. And if I don't want to be around my ex, I literally don't fucking have to. So
Yeah.
immediately he goes, I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I said that. I just missed the group and I want to have a conversation and y'all are all teaming up on me.
Yeah.
First of all, he wasn't invited. He just showed up. And Ariana says, nobody fucked up the group but him. And then Katie says, release yourself from this torture.
So I think that Tom Schwartz never ends relationships. The only way they end is if someone ends it with him. I don't think he's ever ended any sort of friendship or relationship in his life. That's my belief. I think there's reasons for that, but which I've gone into on my podcast a bit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the thing with Ariana is I totally understand where she is coming from. What I don't like and what I'm hoping that she changes her mind in is that her friends all have to fall in line with the same decisions she's making. Like,
Mhm.
do you know what I mean? And I
'Cause they
get there's
slammed Lala for that. They slammed Lala for that.
well, Glala was in a custody battle.
Right, I understand it's different, but
Yeah,
it's similar in the sense that they were like, "Oh," she's
yeah,
like, "You can't play pickleball with my
right.
ex-man, and you have to sign, you're gonna have to come up here and sign this document that says you won't see," and they're all like, "Well, fuck that." It's similar and different.
It is, yeah. And so with this, it doesn't mean that people have to like befriend Tom Sandoval again, but to not be friends with any of his friends. Like, what if someone's still friends with Kyle Chan? Like, is Kyle Chan that terrible? Like, it just feels as if people had to choose sides in the divorce
Right. Yeah,
in a
right.
way that feels unhealthy because then you have to police that. You have to be like, oh, well, you talk to so and so, and that's one of the bad people. That's someone who chose Sandoval's side, and it's
If they
like
want that discounted jewelry, they better keep Kyle
stay
Chan
with Kyle
around.
Chan design.
Yeah.
It's so it feels like that just takes a lot more energy. And I know that Ariana's like, he's not on my mind, all of that. He is on your mind. You live in the same house with
Right.
him. It is taking up your energy to stay bothered, not just by him, by all of his friends. And I
You
get
have to
it
text
because
Ann to walk into your own kitchen,
yeah, that
you
takes
know?
so much mental energy, and I don't fault her for it. I get why she's not leaving the house, and I don't fault her
Same.
for her decisions at all. I think she's, very empowered, and I think she's fantastic. I really like her. I just think that not everyone is a friend in the same way, and there's not necessarily like, the way that Scheana is versus the way Katie is, it's just not very compatible. Like, Katie is like a ride or die, but just because people aren't ride or dies doesn't mean they're not worth having in your life, because then you
Yeah.
get to the point where you all have yes people around you.
Right.
Everyone who's validating the same things that you accuse Tom of, people are just validating every single thing. I liked that Lala said what she said to Ariana about the house. Like, you should get up and leave. That's her opinion. I think it's important that people share their opinions with her.
And
And
what
so
she
she's
told her
not,
about Raquel, she was like, "Every name she's been being called, I've been called that." So,
yeah.
I
I,
I
I
fe I
just
feel for her on that
appreciate
way, yeah.
that Ariana's able to listen to people who she disagrees with. Like, I get it. And I think that shows the difference between Ariana and Tom. There's so many differences, but she's keeping people around that maybe don't agree with her. I will be frustrated to see her if she starts cutting people out because they hang out with Tom Schwartz.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
that's
that's just
ridiculous.
it also like the thing that's unsaid is that they're also on a TV show. And we know firsthand by watching this season of Potomac how frustrating it is when people won't film with one another. And if they
Right.
have rules about who's on whose team and who can be around who, and it's just exhausting and it doesn't make for good entertainment. And if
Yeah.
they want this show to continue, and I think they do because it pays their bills, then
And all of a sudden it blew up to the biggest thing in the world. Yeah.
yeah, so they have to find a way. Now, I think the audience needs to give her a little slack. This has only been 4 months
True.
since, the scandal broke. We're here 10 months, 11 months later, and we're over it kind of. But, this is her life that was blown up and it's only been 4 months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we need to give her a little grace.
I'm not mad at her. So Sandoval walks in with Kyle Chan, and they're like, he just walked in. He just walked in with Kyle Chan, and Ariana's like, oh God, he's going to come over and be like, hi guys. And Jesse comes up to the table to wait on Sandoval and Kyle Chan. Now, Jesse has been a BCD player from day one. We saw Jesse in season 1. We know Jesse is good friends with all these people. He's always around. But it is funny because he came up, he's like, here's my chance. Hi guys, listen, Tom, I'm sorry I had to unfollow you on Instagram. I was like, what is this? He telling I had to unfollow you on Instagram. Sorry, man. Like, I think Tom Sandoval at that time had bigger problems than noticing that Jesse unfollowed him on Instagram. He's like, I had to like make my alliance, But good for Jesse, he got that screen time.
Yeah, and I think something actually happened with Jesse since filming where he had like a life-threatening brain injury situation.
I saw somebody post a GoFundMe
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
Scheana,
so
maybe?
I hope that he is doing better.
He's been in their realm
Yeah, he's been
since
friends with
season
them.
1.
Yes.
Season 1. Yes.
Yes. And so I actually think it was an interesting and a very like real conversation because that was what was happening. Like people felt as though they had to unfollow Sandoval or they were co-signing his behavior,
Yeah.
which is insane. But
Yeah.
I get it. It's just how it goes with like group mentality and all of that. And so to have that conversation, it was someone that he, had in his life for over a decade. And now this person's like, sorry, like had to kind of choose Team Ariana, but like, hope you're doing okay. Don't want anything bad to happen to you. Like, I think he appreciates that because not a lot of people are talking to him that way.
All right. Well, I get your point, but my point still stands. It was.
Oh yeah, he got his screen time, and
It was clout chase. Yeah. No.
Maybe
No.
we'll see him a little bit on the Valley. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe because he is friends with everybody. So, and then Scheana, of course, just happens to run into Sandoval on the way to the bathroom. And she's like, I mean, I'll talk to you, but it has to be in the alley. Like, I'm not going to do it right here. She's like, I mean, even though the camera's already set up, I'll see you in the alley. There's already a crew out there. So she goes to the bathroom and then she meets him outside. They kind of go back and forth. He's trying real hard, like, hey girl, I like what you're wearing. I love your look. It's like a Y2K vibe. Yeah.
My favorite moment is when he was like, you look kind of like, you just like rode in on a Shania Twain motorcycle. And she's like, thank you.
Thanks. I was going for Y2K. He was like, yes, girl, I get it. My sweater's Y2K. And she's like, okay. Anyway, so they talk a lot and she, explains how upset she was about him going on stage and saying all this stuff. And every time, like, he would just double down and everything he's doing and everything he's saying is what a narcissist would do. And he goes, huh, that's what Lala won't admit she is. What? Is Lala there? Why are we bringing Lala into this conversation?
Because he always has to bring someone else up. Do they have elements of narcissism? Every single person on reality TV? Yes, of course.
Yes,
You think you're interesting enough to be on TV. There's like
yes.
elements of it. Just like every single person who runs for president has an element of narcissism in them.
Yes.
To varying degrees.
Some more than others.
Some more than others.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he just can't have a conversation about the topic at hand. He has to always relate it to something else and deflect. Yeah, he cannot take the criticism. It's just he can't let it permeate his brain.
But I liked that Scheana was like, everything you're saying is like a narcissist. Like she's trying to say to him, like, as your friend, I'm trying to tell you how you sound to the world. And then he's like, well, Lala is, and she won't admit it.
And she says the thing that I have been thinking the whole time, which is she says, if you had been truthful and apologetic from the beginning, everything could have been different. Everything would.
Totally.
And that's the part, like, he just dug in and he wasn't truly apologetic. He got
No.
upset that Ariana was mad at him. You know, he didn't give her any time to, and he wasn't groveling. He wasn't truly sorry. He
No,
felt,
and he's
and,
still
and
not
that's
sorry.
and that's the part that's been hard because you can't fake it, right?
Yeah.
Just like Erica Jane can't fake empathy. She's like, how do I act
What is that
empathetic?
word?
What is
Yes.
that? How do I do that? You can't fake it. And he hasn't shown empathy to like it, he
Anyone.
anyone. And I remember when Nick Vile asked him, and that was such an interesting, crazy
When he was late and he was
episode.
like, "But you were late for mine." And they
Yes,
pulled up their screenshots and were like, "No, I
yeah,
wasn't."
no.
Yeah.
But when he said, you don't understand basically how hard it would be to break up with her. Nick was like, yeah, but you got to put on like your big boy pants and sometimes
Right.
do like hard things and have hard conversations that are really, really difficult. And
You're 40 years
but
old, dude. You're
he's never
40
been
years
able to do
old.
it. He couldn't break up with Kristen. He just like slowly let the relationship deteriorate and he cheated on her and moved on with somebody else. So like he's never been able to like have a adult sit down like this isn't working for me. I'm not happy. I need to remove myself from
The
this
same with Schwartz.
situation. Yeah, neither of them. And they're I think that they're going to be friends forever. I don't agree with Law. I don't think he's going to look back in one day and say,
This
"Oh
was
my
the thing.
god, this was a
Yeah.
bad friendship." He's just going to ride
Yeah.
ride the train until there's no place to go.
Yeah. So, when he says that about Lala, "Well, Lala is, it's just like on the playground, like, "Well, your dad's ugly, huh?" Like, just like, "Okay." And then Sheena goes, "Well, she's not, and that's offensive, so I'm heading home, okay? Hey, Tom, my advice to you is humble yourself and get some humility. No one is wishing any harm on you or her, and I want you to know that, okay?" And then he goes, "Sheena, dude, like, after you did that pod with Nima, like, Rachel was very upset. Like, we had hours of conversations. Like, I really had to talk her down." And Sheena goes, "Okay, well, she said it, Tom." And he goes, "Is it really your business?" Okay, now, first of all, you're on a show, they're being filmed, and you asked to talk to her, so yes, it's your business. And she goes, "Yeah, because my character was being questioned, so it is my business." And he goes, "But if you didn't bring it up, it would have never happened. And like you didn't bring it up to begin with." And she goes, "It would have never happened if you didn't fuck Raquel to begin with." And
And
he
that
goes,
is what he can't.
and he says under his breath, "Oh yeah, I guess that's gonna be a thing."
Yep.
It's been a thing. What do you it's where have you been? That is the thing. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
you're
What do
just
you
not
I guess
getting
that'll be a
it.
thing? Yeah, that's the
You're just not
thing.
getting it. And Sheena she made such important points to him, and
Yes.
she's the most like she's the easiest one to get back on your side, right? Because she does feel empathy for everyone. She,
Yes.
connects with people. And
Yes.
they had a real friendship. And I think it was very hurtful to her at the end of last season when he kind of downplayed how real of a friendship they had.
Oh, when he
She
said
was
we were
friends
never
with
friends
him.
or whatever. He said, "I
Yeah.
apologize for what I said to you on that call."
Yeah.
Yes, that was big.
Because they were friends before, Ariana. Like they've been friends for a very long time. And I think it's sad. I think it's really hard, and I don't discount, like, the impact that all of this has had on Scheana or others. I know people are like, "Oh, she likes to make everything about herself." But again, I cannot imagine being thrown into this situation and the amount of attention. I mean, she did have actual paparazzi follow her when she was out with her daughter and had to like
Yeah.
leave a back door. I mean, it does get a little it got really 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 crazy. And I know they always wanted to be famous, but this is taking it to a level that's unhealthy and for them to experience. It's just a person's not meant to be in the middle of a scandal like this.
Sheena has a younger sister, Courtney.
Yes.
Does she have any other sisters or brothers?
No.
So she's the oldest, Courtney's the youngest because Sheena gives middle child energy.
So Scheana and Courtney have different dads. So
Okay.
biological dads. So Scheana was raised by Courtney's dad.
Okay. Interesting. It's
So
just
that's Sheena's dad, right? But like her
right.
biological father. Yeah.
It's interesting because Sheena gives middle child energy and, like, I'm trying to make everything okay for everybody. Like, I want everybody to be happy. Like, let me make mom happy, dad happy, sisters happy, my friends happy. She and people sometimes, call her flip flopper on that. But we have to assume Scheana introduced Tom and Ariana in the first place because Scheana and Ariana were friends for a long, long time. Don't never forget. Um, uh, what was that first song that she had?
Oh my God, I can't remember it, but like Ariana
Okay,
was
like
in the
Kandi Work,
background.
Bitch, and Ariana
Yeah.
was a background dancer.
Yep.
What was
So
it? What was that song? It had bitch in the title.
Work Bitch? Yeah, I think so.
No,
And then she made
that's
those
Britney
like sex
Spears. No.
sound. No, oh yeah. But remember she had like went in the booth and just had to make sex sounds the whole time. And Mike Shea was like like embarrassed watching her do it.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, Mike Shea, what's he doing? Is he remarried?
Hopefully he's not doing drugs.
Well, obviously, we hope that, Mandy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that. It's just I hope he's doing well. I hope he's away from all of this madness. I don't think he was meant for the limelight of
Who
this
is?
show. I'm not. Oh my God. This is my
Never.
worst nightmare is to have this much attention on me.
No, I wouldn't be able to take it day one. I'd be like, "Oh my god, they said that, like, I have bad eyebrows. That's it, I quit. I'm moving to Australia."
Right.
Like,
That's why
yeah.
I've tried to get people to like think of when they're watching like the amount of hate and incoming they get just for being on this show. And people have so many opinions and they feel like their opinions need to be heard by the cast members. Like that's why I'm like, you could just go on a podcast and shit talk and don't tag them.
Go on a
like
podcast. You
why?
don't need to write on an Instagram
You don't need
comment.
to send them a DM telling them to
No.
kill themselves. My God, like get it together, people.
I've said it a million times. I'm sure you've had experience with this as well. I don't understand people that leave bad podcast reviews or go on Instagram for anybody, not a podcast or anybody, just anybody, any celebrity, anybody, and feel the need to shit talk them and tell them they hate them or their podcast is stupid or you did that movie and you looked fat or whatever. Like, I don't get it because
It's
I
insane.
I I I I have a podcast. I could talk about stuff there, but never to anybody's face, which is what you're doing when you send somebody a DM or comment on an Instagram post and be like, "Ooh, I used to like your podcast, but I hate Bravo, so I'm never going to listen again. 1 star." Okay.
It's like you could
Does
just
that feel good
not
that make you say that? Like,
you
shut
could just
up.
not listen if you don't like the podcast, or you could just skip over the episodes that are Bravo. I don't know. I've had so many weird, like I only check my reviews probably once every 2 months because
Same.
I
That's what I
I
try to do.
try really not to look at them. Because again, like this is not my job. It's not what I'm trying to make money from. I just do it for fun. And so I want it to feel positive, you
Yeah.
know? Like that's why it's like really important to me to keep that. But people will point out the weirdest things, or I got something wrong about Carolyn Manzo, like a fact wrong about the stuff with her and her sister, and
Mm.
someone just like laid into me about that. I've had people go after me for being Jewish. And yeah, and I mean, luckily those got taken down, but some of them I'm just like, this is I don't understand. And so I think people get frustrated if I like try to kind of not give Tom Sandoval's side, but show some sort of empathy. But again, I argue that there is not a limit on the amount of empathy that we can show to these people.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that I don't think he did anything wrong. It just means that I can see how a lot of this might be harmful to his mental health. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I think your point is obviously you don't agree with what he did, but you can have
No.
empathy for the amount of hate that he's gotten to put him in such a dark place.
And so much hate. I mean, there are I don't wanna say like there are far worse things. I mean, there's to Ariana, there hasn't been, right? Other than the death of her dad, like a worse thing that has happened in her life. This upended everything. But for the rest of us, he didn't do it to us,
Right,
right? There are far worse things that people have done that they've gotten far less hate for. And so
right.
it's like, why did this thing make him the like not I guess sort of like a scapegoat in a way where like we put all of our anger on him when he only did something to Ariana. Like I get them all being angry, but us as viewers,
Yeah.
we just take it so personally and we act as if it happened to us and it didn't. We just need to kind of remind ourselves that like we're not in this mess, we're just watching it.
You guys, this is why you should listen to Mandy's podcast. She's very, very smart and has really good points, and she has great guests, and her podcast is called "Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutsker. It is spelled like slut, and that's
Yes.
okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
just you can, look me up on Instagram. You can type in Mandy Slut. I guarantee you I'm the only person that will come up.
Oh my God, what if there was like a porn star that had the name like Mandy Slut? You'd have to like sue them for copyright
Oh, I
infringement.
was gonna say I would like email them and become friends.
Oh, okay.
Because my dad did that to the other Ilya Slutsker who works at NASA. They like connected on LinkedIn. And then
That's hilarious.
there's a third Ilya Slutsker, all of them with like PhDs and some weird like it's so funny.
Oh, that's crazy because you think like somewhere along the line were they ever related, you know?
Probably, yeah, everyone with
Yeah.
the last name, like, that starts with slut,
Yeah.
is related because there's a town called Slutsk, in what was formerly, like, the USSR, modern
Yeah.
day Belarus, that,
Belarus.
everyone from that town, it was a Jewish town, got a last name associated with, like, Slutskaya, like Irina Slutskaya, Slutsker, Slutsky, and then some people call it Slutsky if they came to the US at a certain time and they just pronounced
Yeah.
it differently. But yeah, we're all from that same town. So I don't know if we did any sort of genealogy, but my dad was like, is now friends with this like NASA guy. It's hilarious because they have the same name.
That's very interesting, Mandy. That's it's a little deep dive into your history. That's cool. That's cool. I don't know where my family's from. Something boring like England. Um, tell everybody where they can find out about you, your podcast, and where to follow you on all the social media.
Oh, thank you so much. So I love coming on this podcast. Mary Payne, guys, let's give it up for Mary Payne because she is so hilarious. She puts out such great content. She is a
Stop.
fantastic friend. She's so fun to be around and travel with. We were at BravoCon
Yeah.
and we had the best time. She's awesome.
Thanks,
So
Mandy. I feel the
yeah,
same about you, and I'm glad
I
we could
know.
do this together on Valentine's Day
Oh
because
my god, I
even
know.
even though I'm married, I have no plans.
I love it. So my podcast is, as she said, is this real life? You can listen to it anywhere that has podcasts. And I would encourage following me on Instagram. Again, it's at Mandy Slutsker. You could just type in Mandy Slut. I am on Twitter, but I'm really trying not to spend a lot of time there because
Same.
it's not a very happy place.
Yeah, I don't know why I do it. I just look at it. So if I see something pop up, like Ben and Ronnie said something funny, and I'm like, oh, I should go look at that. You know,
Right. I
yeah,
love following like Brian Moylan and like people who are
of
hilarious.
course, Brian Moylan, the
But
best.
in general, it's kind of a cesspool. So and I prefer Instagram, so I'm trying to figure out how to use it better.
I've got a girl that can coach you. It's her name is Meredith Lynch, and she's like a famous TikToker. And she came on last week to talk about Bravo, and she like literally does that for people. She helps them.
Oh my gosh, maybe.
She
I'm
helps
afraid of
them.
TikTok though.
I know she can help you though with your and you know my our we have a social media person that helps with the
Yes.
Instagram and stuff. It's still don't have 10,000 followers, but we're growing by like 3 or 4 every week. It's
Well, you
just
know
like
what?
the little engine that could.
I think our listeners, like not everyone's on Instagram or
I
like,
know.
some of them have an Instagram account that they barely check or they just connected with relatives. Like it's
Yeah,
just not everyone is so online,
I know. But for our
and
business, like you it's
right,
like
it's
it is
helpful.
important. It is important because you're like I've told everybody this before, but sometimes like the ad agency will come and be like, "Okay, well they're looking at this. They need to know your listener numbers, like your social media numbers." I'm like, "Well, that second one they're not going to be happy about." But I'm trying my hardest as a elder. I'm trying my hardest.
Same. I'm an elder too at this point. I like TikTok. I'm like, oh, I don't want that app on my phone. Like,
Oh, girl,
I don't want the Chinese like
you're
slime.
missing out. TikTok is the happiest place on earth. It's amazing. This you could learn so much.
I
You can learn
know.
so much.
I
All
know.
right, everybody follow Mandy and please make sure to follow me as well on Instagram at Pink Shade Pod. TikTok is Pink Shade Podcast. And yes, sometimes there are different things in both places. And I will be at you this weekend with Meredith Constant to talk about the season finale of Smothered, 90 Day of Single Life. I'll be back next week with Kimberly to talk 90 Day Fiance. And then I'll be dropping one by one episodes of Love is Blind. Just I'm going to be dropping like episode 1, episode 7. That's going to be on the free feed. But all episodes of Love is Blind, as they're dropped on Netflix, 1 through 6 just dropped. 1 through 6 recaps are currently over on Pink Shade Prime. We did them all in advance so you could listen as you go. So also, Keisha and I still talk about Prison Brides. There's a lot of content. Mandy is like, Prison Brides. What the hell are you talking about? Don't sleep on Prison Brides. It's a Lifetime show. All right, Mandy, I will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad-free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.